The month of April alone, there have been headlines around the country of women being killed with their significant others listed as suspects in their deaths. Live 5's Samantha German spoke with state advocates of domestic violence survivors about the bills currently in session at the State House in Columbia and why the language in those bills ensures the safety and protection of all women in South Carolina.
Our communities, our legislators, we are not doing enough to protect women and children in South Carolina, period.
CEO of My Sister's House, Tasha Connors, says this ongoing issue of domestic violence can feel overwhelming and oftentimes unsolvable. But she wants people to know it is solvable. It emphasizes the first step of many is understanding the language of the crime.
The vernacular, the language that is used is so important because when you see things like domestic abuse or domestic disturbance, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, those things can mean something different to each person.
Connors says each state may define domestic violence differently. So when a domestic tragedy makes national headlines, Connors explains that sometimes the language used can be a watered-down description of what people perceive as happening.
So when we look at how domestic violence is defined here, if it's a domestic violence situation, you're living together, you have lived together, you were married, or you share a child in common, then you'll fall under those domestic violence statutes. But if you're dating, you've never lived together, you don't share a child in common, those things don't exist.
These are the reasons why state advocates are pushing to pass specific legislation currently pending, like the Coercive Control Bill 702 and Senate Bill 143, which would extend orders of protection for dating partners in South Carolina.
These heartbreaking situations where victims have experienced extreme forms of control in their lives, and yet we don't recognize them. And by not recognizing them legally, we're sort of cutting off escape routes for people, and so we're also potentially reducing our ability to prevent homicides because we're leaving people stuck in those relationships without a way to get out.
Advocates say some bills aren't even being talked about, let alone considered, like emergency orders when somebody has been deemed harmful to themselves or someone else, and firearms are not removed from the homes.
We know that when there is a firearm present, you're 5 times more likely to be murdered. These aren't random facts that we're making up. They're substantiated. There is data. We need to pay attention to what's out there because women are being murdered at alarming rates.
Connors also points to the state's abortion bill, which if passed would make it illegal for a woman to get an abortion with no exceptions to rape and incest.
We're talking about male violence and then not being able to have autonomy over your own body. When something so traumatic has happened, it further victimizes what domestic violence and sexual assault victims have already gone through.
She says data shows there are certain populations that get victimized at higher rates.
When we're looking at Black and brown women, and when we see those things happening in our state and then being reflected nationally, again, what else do you need to see? I am pleading with people to reach out to your local representatives, your local senators, to call their offices. Their staff will listen when you call. If you make enough noise, people will listen.
It takes persistence. It takes expanding knowledge in the community. It takes the community mobilizing because our elected officials respond to what we as communities need, and we have to let them know what that is.
If you feel that you are involved in a domestic relationship or feel someone you know could be in one and needs help, we do have a list of resources for you on our website at live5news.com. In Charleston, Samantha German, Live 5 News.